Hi, this is Group 11A, which consists of Hiếu Châu, Tuấn Việt, and myself, Tao Nguyên. In this lecture, we will talk about the definitions and functions of media through propaganda. In your opinion, what is media? Are you aware of the appearance of media around you? We interact with media in our daily lives. We unconsciously create and consume media simply through trivial things like reading newspaper or posting a status on social media. Simultaneously, we are influenced and make influence through the media. To understand the influence of media, we examine one special case of media, which is propaganda. We all see how propaganda has been repeatedly employed by politicians to shape people's thoughts. Evidently, through propaganda, we can see the critical role of the media in transmitting messages and producing changes. It can be used to encourage awareness and influence good behavior and response, or it can be used to induce negative behavior. So, from the definition of media written in the book Practices of Looking, we can understand that media is a channel that contains text and visuals. It stands in between the communicators like people, association, and institution, accumulating and conveying the messages of these communicators. Some examples of media are newspapers, billboards, films, video games, and social networks such as Facebook and Instagram. In that sense, in our daily lives, we are both consuming media through watching TV and films and producing media like sharing photos and your feelings on social platforms. Marshall McLuhan, a Canadian theorist, has extended this concept of media further, stating that as long as media contains messages and brings about changes, it could even include technologies like cars, railways, and light bulbs. We can see that propaganda is one special case of media that clearly manifests McLuhan's idea of the medium is a message. According to the Britannica Dictionary, propaganda is the dissemination of information, facts, arguments, or rumors, half-truths, or lies to influence public opinion. In other words, propaganda can be understood as the act of conveying a message to the public with the purpose of affecting collective opinion and thought. The effect of these propagandas on public opinion can be both positive and negative, depending on the intention of the propagandist. Since we are aware of the fact that the medium is a message in the case of propaganda, and showing how propaganda produces messages to make an impact on people, we can accordingly relate to other cases of media, such as advertisement and films, and recognize its implicit message and influence that we usually take for granted. In this lecture, we are going to explore media through 3 different cases of propaganda works. So in the first case, we can see media can spread the message of nationalism and patriotism. During the war era of Vietnam, especially in the war against French colonialism and against the US Army, many propaganda posters emerged, playing an important role in promoting the sense of patriotism and collectivism, encouraging people to take part in the war, like enlisting doing the logistics jobs to support the war. And so, this poster, Defend Our Native Land, Defend Our Youth, is one of the propaganda posters released by the National Liberation Front, or NLF, an armed revolutionary organization formed by the North Vietnam government in 1966. This poster particularly focuses on the women community in Vietnam at that time. The current leader of NLF, Ho Chi Minh, has always emphasized on the necessity of the anonymity of Vietnamese people, regardless of genders, ages, and backgrounds, since the war against French colonialism. Especially the role of women force has been repeatedly portrayed. Eventually, it became a popular theme for these propaganda posters. For example, Yu Ngọc Cẩn used yellow and red as the dominant color for the poster, which are signature colors that represent the communist political regime of the North Vietnam government. The women in the poster were generalized with traditional clothes, making the women figures in the poster a representative of all the Vietnamese women in the war. The lotus and the guns are two contrasting symbolic images manifesting both the femininity, the lotus, and the braveness, the soldier-like spirit, or the gun, of the women in the war. The two symbols show that women not only take care of the family, work for a food supply at the rear, but also join in the front lines such as delivering mail and paving the way. Through this case, we can see how the media built the ideal woman image, which is called the communist official's dream girl in the wartime. All the symbolic images above, namely the appearance of guns, lotus, and the build of beautiful, strong, and brave women icons, serve that ideal image. The target of the media in this case is the women community. They are the one who consume this product of media. In this particularly poster, together with many other postcards during that time, were printed and widely spreaded through press and journalism, one of the form of media. The media at that time has repeatedly reminded people of two messages, calling for women to assist the revolutionary force, clearly stating that the nation needed this kind of strong and brave women, and two, praising the women for their crucial role and contribution for the revolution. Moving on to the next case, we will see a different way of utilizing propaganda, which is as a form of manipulation. In 1954, the Geneva Accords called for a temporary separation of Vietnam at the 17th parallel, creating a communist state in the north and a non-communist state in the south. There was a 300-day period of free travel between North and South Vietnam before the border closed. The U.S. ran a propaganda campaign to encourage Northerners to go south to avoid communism, where they would be welcomed with open arms, as seen on this poster. In the layout, the given images are built with clear illustrative nature, and the image that people see in the pictures have been somewhat exaggerated to reflect the idea strongly. Specifically, in the north, image of killing each other with gunpowder and smoke appear as an indication of war. In addition, the image of the Vietnamese flag on the picture also implied that death is something that the Vietnamese communists can cause, in contrast with the peaceful image of the fields, as well as the flag of the colonial country. The picture wants to manipulate us into thinking that the South is a more livable place. The color is intentionally contrasting and vibrant to attract the people's attention. The strong character, thanks to the array of colors, strokes, create a deep impression of tension for viewers. Specifically, the picture used both opposing colors, gray and green, to clearly show the separation of two regions. The gray color, symbolizing the north, implies that if people continue to live here, they will suffer the negative influence of the communists. With the green, the author used this color to draw a beautiful life in the south to call on people to come to this area. In addition, the use of the green dividing line also speaks to the superiority of life in the south over the north. The typography is stylized and short but very clear and meaningful, contributing to strengthening the content of the painting. Especially, the writing is divided into two sentences and two color arrays of the picture. The word Nam, or South, is always bold or prominent in size comparing to the rest. It also appears twice in two sentences to call on people to move to the south. Meanwhile, the word Bắc, north, appear quite faintly as if to talk about the inferiority of the north. So manipulation is one of the most prominent use of media, as it always has a great influence on the masses. The propaganda has shown manipulation towards the people of the north by highlighting the superiority of the South, But the purpose of the media is to entice the people in the north to move into the south to avoid the poverty of the communists. This manipulation is expressed through contrast in images, colors, and typography. Moving to the modern time, we can observe many social issues which have used the tool of media and propaganda to serve the advocacy purposes. Thus, propaganda and media can also be used as a tool for social change. In the beginning, we have mentioned that McLuhan described the media as a platform that helps society raise their voice and extend their cultural transmission. When people of similar social or cultural identity seek to promote their own specific interests or concerns, which is also be called identity politics, and media and propaganda is becoming a tool of persuasion and manipulation, which is also called soft power. And plus, the development of the free media space, or can be called public spheres. The media can be a democratic space for marginalized communities to raise their voice on stereotypes or to challenge social norms and oppressions. For example, most recently, the Lab Saigon has created a national campaign to erase stigma against people living with HIV and educate the public about the effective treatment that prevents infections, even through condomless sex, known as K=K campaign. Against the backdrop of century-old sexual norms and decades-old of HIV prevention and years of fear-mongering propaganda, they managed to reframe the narrative with new science and hope by collaborating with contemporary Vietnamese artists to reinterpret the old government posters. In these examples, the old propaganda posters depicted HIV and AIDS and its victim through dark colors and scary imaging, while indicating that HIV is caused by prostitution and narcotic drugs, pressing on the stigma of these subjects in society. However, as we understand more of HIV, we know that it is preventable and can be treated to the point that the patient can live normally. Thus, the remake versions are painted in the new lights with brighter, more positive colors, with slogans that are modern, fun, and compassionate, shifting the mood and bringing a new era of hope and understanding for HIV as well as its victims. Through this case, we can see that solely by the use of media, we are able to construct and deconstruct our narrative on social issues and erase the stigma in society. And because the media can expand to wider platform, it can spread the message further to multiple audience and raise awareness of the people, which makes itself a useful tool for activists to advocate for social change. Through 3 specific cases of propaganda, McLuhan's idea of the medium is the message has been clearly illustrated. Media appears all around us, bearing a significant influence on our social life. Unlike propaganda, the exceptional case that we are well aware of this intention in shaping people's thoughts, many other forms of media like films and billboards do not contain messages and affect us without our realization. After this lecture, we hope that you have a better understanding of the concept of media and be able to recognize its presence and influence in our daily life.